Back on Sports Bit, Paulie and Teddy. Time for Big Game Breakdown. As always, live odds. SportsBookReview.com. Monday Night Football, Texans and the Broncos. Denver laying 8.5, 40.5 the total. The Denver D, the numbers are great. Per play, second in the league, 4.6. Per pass, second in the league. Sack percentage, number one in the league. More impressive, look at the quarterbacks they face. Newton, Luck, Dalton, Winston, Ryan, and Phillip Rivers. And now they get one of the worst quarterbacks, at least statistically, in the league with Osweiler coming to town.
Yeah, but we got to go through that one more time, because when you're talking about number 2 in the NFL in yards per play, number 2 in the NFL in yards per pass, and you faced Cam Newton, Andrew Luck, Andy Dalton, Jameis Winston, Matt Ryan, Phillip Rivers, every one of them is going to be a top half of the league QB. I mean, maybe you put Winston right in the middle there, but Newton, Luck, Dalton, Ryan, Rivers, they'll be top 10 QBs probably. So the fact that Denver has put up these monster numbers against a better offense they're going to face here certainly gives bettors some hope for the Broncos and explains why there's been nothing but Denver's team. Remember, this line opened 6.5. We're looking at 8.5. There are 9s out there as we record very early on Monday morning. And I haven't seen a lick of buyback on the Texans yet, Pauling. That has a lot to do with the fact that Brock Osweiler has some really ugly numbers so far this season.
Yeah, and he gets Fuller back, and he has Hopkins, so he has weapons, and he's got Lamar Miller too, so this is unacceptable. And, you can't really blame the play calling either, because he's not getting it done. The passer rating is 74.1. He has 8 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. Only road games are at New England and at Minnesota, but in those games, the offense was terrible. The only touchdown was on a meaningless drive with 3 minutes left, down 31-6 against the Vikings. What is this guy's problem?
Well, again, Brock Osweiler, in the modern NFL, where there aren't many elite quarterbacks, Denver's got to, Denver made the choice. We're not going to pay this guy. We're going to draft somebody.
Well, that's not true.
What do you mean that's not true?
They wanted him, but Houston gave him more money.
Right. They said the Broncos had a chance to match the Texans' offer and chose not to do it.
Okay, all right.
That was a John Elway decision. John Elway said, this guy's not worth $72 million.
But
so far, John Elway's been right.
Which was
yeah. He didn't want Kaepernick. And that, he said, all right, well, we'll go with, Trevor Siemian. We'll go with Paxton Lynch. We'll play to the future. But Osweiler, he hasn't been good. And the 2 road games, as you mentioned, at New England, at Minnesota, 2 elite teams, the offense was a disaster in both of those ball games with only the 1 garbage time touchdown. And now he's facing a great defense, every bit as good as New England's, every bit as good as Minnesota's, arguably better, arguably the best defense in the NFL. I rank Denver and Minnesota 1-2, with the Patriots not that far down from that duo. But now he's got to do it on the road. And, he's got to do it against a defensive coordinator that watched him in practice every day for the last 4 years and would, in theory, be able to know Brock Osweiler's vulnerabilities more than your average defense coordinator. Wade Phillips has a pretty good track record against quarterbacks that he's had on his roster when he faces them on another roster.
Well, okay, can Denver score enough to cover this big point spread? Because, the passing stats look pretty good, but the opposing teams don't fear Siemian, and they have been able to get C.J. Anderson going, only 3.5 yards per carry. The last 2 years, it was 4.7.
Yeah, and the Broncos' offensive line hasn't been particularly good so far this season. They look good in the opener against Carolina, and then we realized that everyone's looking good against Carolina. And they haven't necessarily good. The last time I remember them looking really good was the game against Tampa Bay. It's been a couple of weeks since that Broncos' offensive line has been able to blow open holes for Anderson. And some of that has to do with the fact that they've been playing a little bit of QB shuffle. Siemian wasn't particularly good in the loss at San Diego. He was bad in the loss at San Diego. And Simeon's been a guy that when he's in a rhythm, and he's found a rhythm a handful of times this season, he's looked pretty good throwing downfield. But when they don't have that downfield passing game, you see the difference. Anderson more than a yard per carry less than last year. I'm going to read one quote here because we talked about the Brock Osweiler situation, and I want to just get back to that real briefly. This is from Von Miller talking about what it's like going after a QB who used to be your friend, but now he's on another team. Quote, you're playing one of your brothers. You're playing one of the guys that you bled with. It's just a little bit of added sauce. You really want to beat those guys when you play them. And of course, Von Miller, fun-loving guy, leader on the Broncos team, but you better believe he's going to lead that attack against Brock Osweiler and company on Monday Night Football.
Back to this game with the play of the day. Up next, the deep dive. College football recap. Another wild weekend. Ohio State goes down. It's coming up on SportsBit. Betting insight today on SBRpicks.com. Hey guys, for the full video, go to SBRpicks.com.